And we're back. We had a little technical difficulties.
And we're back.
So where were we?
I think we were talking about the unmalted millet and its
oh,
differences.
yes. So
Yeah.
how do you?
So like I get a lot of flour. Like I get enough flour that I think other brewers would probably be really concerned about it. Like if they saw how much flour is in my like first initial runnings.
Right.
But it's a super coarse flour. It doesn't suspend and stay in the beer.
Okay.
And so when I reach boil, the flour actually clumps together, and I'll get pieces of just cooked flour sitting in the bottom of the kettle.
Okay.
Just like
bad.
the size of a coin.
Yeah.
And it just sticks together. And it doesn't even make it out of the kettle.
Oh,
like,
that's
much
nice.
less. Like it would get caught through the screen. Even if it did, you can just put it through a coarse hot bag and it catches all of it.
Nice.
So like I end up with glass clear beer if I want to. Like our Starlight White is clear enough that you can read the far side of the label through the bottle. Like you can read the label.
And it's a brown bottle.
Yeah, and it's a brown bottle.
That's incredibly clear.
Yeah. Yeah, so like and that's without any fining. So that just it's passed from the kettle through a hop bag, which is actually just to catch the hop debris and the orange peel and the coriander that's in it and keep it out of my pump. That's all. And goes into the fermenter, and then I do a 12-degree temperature drop prior to bottling. So like the 24 hours prior to bottling, do a 12-degree temperature drop, and that's it. And that temperature drops so much of the suspended yeast, and then it gets really clear. And the beer actually lets me know when it's conditioned and ready to sell by going to that glass clear. So it'll be a little bit white and hazy while it's conditioning, and the yeast is still active. And then all at once, it'll just, from the top down, just clarify over the course of like 2 days.
Oh, nice.
And then it's ready. Yeah, and it's beautiful to watch. And so you can actually have a bottle where the top is perfectly clear, and from the middle down, it's not. Like if you catch it at just the right point. But by the end of the day, that'll have settled to the bottom.
Oh, that is so cool. And that's another thing you do.
I watch my beer a lot. Yeah.
Is that because you bottle condition everything?
Absolutely everything is bottle conditioned. It's just what we were set up for originally, and then I decided that I really like it. I like the flavor better. I tried some of our beers, like I tried the white pressure carbed. It never clarified. It never turned that beautiful, incredible clear.
Weird.
It got a lot clearer than it started, but not nearly to that same, like be able to look through it and read through it standard, which let me know that there is actually a difference. I don't know exactly why, but that beer really showed me that like bottle conditioning makes a real difference. It also lets us have less equipment, so I don't have to have bright tanks. Just from fermenter into the bottle.
Yeah.
We add priming sugar to a keg, so I have a half-barrel keg. We measure out the right amount of priming sugar for each beer, put that in the keg, fill the keg with beer, roll it around, take out the dead space from the stem that doesn't get the priming sugar, take that out, and then bottle off of the keg.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, it's fast, it's fun, and our bottling machine costs $14.
Nice.
Yeah. So
it's a lot cheaper than a couple hundred just to get like a liquid beer gun or something.
Right. Yeah. So a couple of hundred for the beer gun, and then if you want an actual bottling machine, like what Groundbreaker used to do for their 22s, James always loved that machine so much. No, there was a lot of hatred directed at it, if I remember correctly, because things broke all the time. But it was like $20,000 or something.
Oh my, yeah.
Like, pass. That's the price of the total rest of the entire brewery. Is that?
Wow.
So, I mean, we're tiny.
Yeah.
We're teeny tiny. So that's not in our budget.
Right.
And no, I'll do it by hand. No.
And it shows, because all of your beers I've had have been, I mean, they're unique and different, but all very well crafted.
Well, thank you.
I mean, I can't think of any that, I'd be like, oh, it's good, but I wouldn't have it again. Like I've liked them all.
Well, that's higher praise for my beers than I give them. So thank you very much. There are definitely some of my beers that I'm like, I don't want that. Yeah, I mean, most of them are the weird one-offs we try, because not every idea is good, and
Right.
not every beer window exclusive that I brew comes to market. Most of them do. Occasionally, a batch just gets left to age for 6 months to see if it improves, or just gets poured out.
Right.
My favorite was I made a gruit with lavender. So no hops. It had lavender, I think peppercorn mix, or it had something else. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. And Jason from Mutantis, he warned me. He's like, be careful with that lavender. Be careful. Be careful. I'm like, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. And I tasted it, out of the fermenter. It was delicious. It was delicious at the end of the boil. It's like ready to bottle. Taste it. Tastes great. Carbonated up. Oh, once it was carbonated, the CO2 lifts the lavender out of solution. As soon
Okay.
as you get a sip in your mouth, it's like vaporized lavender perfume, and it's like drinking perfume. It was not.
Ugh.
It was not consumable. It was horrible. Like, I'll actually say it was horrible. So it was like that bottle went from my mouth upside down in the sink and just popped open the whole batch and just dumped all of it.
Oh
Salvaged the
man.
glass. It was so bad. So there's all these angry notes in the brew recipe, like the correct amount of lavender is 0, written in the notebook. Like, just try everything, and not all ideas are good. Not everything's
Right.
gonna work. I learned from that and will not put lavender in beer again. I mean, you could, I suppose, if it was an incredibly teeny, tiny amount. Two Town Cider made a blueberry lavender cider. And I was super, super skeptical about trying it because of my own experience with lavender. So I managed to buy a mixed case that only had 3 of them. I'm like, perfect. And this is low commitment.
Yeah.
I tried it, and it was okay. But my first thought when I tried it was, it'd be better without the lavender.
Okay.
Like, it's the carbonation. Like, the flavors work together, but then when you carbonate it, it's a chemistry issue.
Right.
It's too aromatic. It evaporates too easily with the CO2.
I had an experience.
Not all ideas are good.
Kind of like that with I think it was an elderberry kombucha, and to me it just tasted like it was too sweet. It's been 2 years since I've had it. Sort of too much for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I ended up drinking all 4 because, I mean, kombucha's not cheap.
Yeah.
But it took a while before I got to the point where I was like, yeah, I'll drink that.
I have a star anise and elderberry gruit conditioning up right now.
Okay.
So I'll be very interested to see how it goes. But it's not that much elderberry in it. My bigger concern in that is the star anise. If that becomes like, but from the carbonation, it might be a little bit of like, well, gonna have to figure out something else to go in my variety pack real fast. Maybe get 2 of something. Should I open this unknown beer? We can
go for it. Go for it. I know one interesting thing I saw you post about a while ago was you did this like really ancient brewing method with stones.
No, that wasn't me. I haven't done that yet. I'm interested in it. I did do one that
Who did it then? I could have.
No, it wasn't me. I mean, it is up my alley, and I am interested in doing it. I did do one where it was biomass fueled, where I used a little rocket stove and used burning pine cones and sticks
Yeah.
To power a beer, and it was like a very gentle simmer of and it was a imperial IPA called Powered by Pine Cones.
Yeah, I had that.
120 or 102 IBU. Yeah. This is a Spruce Tip Pale.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And that's something you do that I haven't seen much of any other brewery, or, let alone any of the gluten-free brewers doing, is the Gruits and Spruce Tips.
Yeah.
So how do you source spruce tips?
Oh, this is a great story. So we have, I like to call it a recovered clear cut that my mom owns out in Tillamook. It's just this little parcel of land. And when we bought it, it was scraped bare dirt, grass and weeds. It was a clear cut that had been cleaned up just a little bit. It's just a couple of acres. Well, we planted a whole bunch of spruce trees along the sides. And so now they're all grown. So I can go and pick all the spruce tips that I want from trees that we own that I planted when I was a kid.
Oh, that's so cool.
And so they're coastal spruce. And when you pick a spruce tip, I mean, that's the trees only grow out along an axis. Right. So you're picking that tip, and then next year they make side branches, which all have tips. So every year you pick them, they get bushier and make more tips. So you can have areas where you've been picking them, and I've only been picking them for 2 years, where it becomes easier and easier to pick. And that doesn't last forever. The tree will eventually outgrow that area, and those parts will be shaded out because they're not growing outward. But for a few years, you can have this area that's just a wall of spruce tips. And all I do is just wear a backpack on the front that has a big bag in it and just go like this.
Oh, that is so cool.
And that's it. And I just pick the easiest ones. You never want to pick the top of the tree, and you never want to pick from the ends of the big branches, because you can kill them. Like, you can really hurt the tree by taking its tip, because it can't grow up anymore. So it'll be all distorted. It probably won't die completely if you just do it once, but you can really set the tree back. And also the top one is much more woody. It wants to grow several feet that year. Like a spruce tree on the coast can grow 3 feet from its growth tip in 1 year. So you don't want that one anyway. So you just pick from the side branches, and they're soft. If they're not soft when you grab it, don't pick that one. It started to get woody, and you don't want it. It'll be more bitter. The really, really soft, really young spruce tips taste like candy, even in the beer. This like almost candy note comes through. This is just a simple pale ale with a whole bunch of spruce tips. It's got 2 pounds of spruce tips per barrel. I think just over 2 pounds, like 2 pounds and a couple of ounces of spruce tips per barrel. And what I did was I just picked them in the spring, but nobody wants spruce tip beer in the summer. So I just picked them, vacuum packed them, froze them, didn't dry them or anything like that, didn't process them, just put them directly into a bag, vacuum packed it, chucked it in the freezer, sit. And then I just dumped them in the boil, just from frozen into the boil. And it tastes really good. It doesn't age real well. Like, you don't want to cellar this beer. The spruce flavor falls moderately fast. I can already tell that this is a little less than it used to be. But that also means that if you put in way too much spruce, just let it sit a couple of weeks. And that way too much will go down to a lot, which will gradually and then it ends
just about right.
Yeah. And then if you were to age it a long time, it's just a pale ale, pretty much. It'll be a pale ale with a few other kind of tree resin notes. I like it.
Which are not counterintuitive to a pale ale, because
right. It just tastes like a resinous hops.
Right.
After it ages down. So I'm really excited about this. We have a second one. This was our first one, and we did it as a custom brew for a store here in Portland, John's Market, which is this major like beer religious experience for the community. They have like 2,400 different beers or something like that. They have I've posted pictures of their gluten-free beer set. They have the best gluten-free beer set possibly in the world. Definitely in the state of Oregon, which is a pretty bold enough claim on its own.
Yeah, especially with
full height, full width end cap that's entirely gluten-free. Like, I have a whole shelf, Beerly has a whole shelf. They're one of the few retailers that carries Mutantis. The Groundbreaker, Ghostfish, Evasion. That's all there. And then they have like Glutenberg and just everybody. And then Omission gets banished to like the very most difficult to reach spot on the shelf. So it's like Omission's like 6.5 feet up one little
Right.
pile, and we're like, yeah, you're not actually gluten.
I don't know. For some reason, Omissions just doesn't sell here. But I'm sure they're obligated to carry it by the
well,
distributor.
They carry everything.
Yeah.
So it's not so much that they're obligated to carry it, it's that it's a beer. Why wouldn't John's Market have it?
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, John's is great. They were actually our very, very first customer ever. When we opened, they bought our first case of beer sold, went to John's Market.
That's awesome.
So we started, once we got our label printer and a smaller 1-barrel fermenter, we started offering custom batches for stores.
Mm-hmm.
And they were the first taker. This is the second beer that we've done for them, which is this Spruce Tip Pale. And we have a second Spruce Tip beer that was just bottled. It was just bottled, what, Friday, Thursday?
Okay.
Recently, very recently. That's a Spruce Tip Brown. And it's incredible. So I'm very, very excited about that. And that should be starting to come out next week.
I might have to try that.
Yeah, maybe. It's really good. It's really good.
Right. One moment. I am going to be right back. I need to grab another beverage.
Ah, more beer. I have a sign for this occasion. Your host is currently loading. This conversation is buffering. I'd hum the Jeopardy theme, but we'd probably get slapped with a copyright infringement. So, how are you? I told myself I was going to take a couple of days off drinking, maybe a week, no beer, and then interview. Oh, let's drink beer on camera. Well, a 2-glass exception. Moonshrimp Brewing has allied with Love and Science Labs. They make craft CBD, high-end CBD tinctures, now available in the Portland area.
Okay. That's one advantage of recording is they'd be like, oh, I'm gonna go grab.
I talked to the recording for a while, just sort of
oh, cool.
Up. So you can enjoy that surprise later.
That'll be nice. So I am trying from Mutantis.
Oh, cool.
Pale lager. Then of course I've got a groundbreaker, a lolly as a backup.
Oh, yeah.
Gotta grab them out since I'm the brand ambassador for Michigan.
Oh, right, of course.
So the only other person I can think of offhand in the gluten-free world that would do, and you probably know what that method is called with the, you put the stones in the fire and use those to heat the water.
Yeah, I know exactly what it is. I don't remember the name, but yeah, you get red hot stones and just drop them in the kettle instead of putting the fire under the kettle.
Right. Would be red leaf. out of Vermont, because he does a bunch of, I mean, he like, because he makes his own maple syrup and does some other things like that. So it's possible that he's who I was thinking of.
I would check with Jason from Mutantis because he would absolutely do that too. I just don't know if he has the space now or if he did it with Beerly before he opened his space or something. That
Right.
might have been a thing. So. Oh, that's a pretty beer. Very clear.
Yeah, super. Almost use it as a what do you call it? Like the Instagram filter.
Oh yeah, it's the beer filter. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good job, Mutantis. That beer looks
Talk about beer goggles. Of course, I have it in my
two pints. The pints just go right here, right in front of the eyes.
Hello. Of course, it's winter in Michigan and my nose is completely dead. I can't smell a damn thing. Very nice though. Have you had this one?
That one, no.
Okay.
Our first, my wife and I's first like date out once, you know, COVID was winding down at the beginning of the summer was to go to Mutantis.
Mm-hmm.
Got like tasting trays and it was fun. It was nice.
Oh, that'd be so cool. I've gotten to do that twice. Once at Aurochs and then once at Rolling Mills in Ohio. Because I mean, there's just nothing around me at all.
Yeah. My go-to dedicated gluten-free restaurant closed at the beginning of the pandemic. They didn't really plan, despite being a wildly successful restaurant, they weren't so much planning people. And so they just shut down completely when they could have just done a big takeout and then couldn't reopen. And that was it.
It's always sad.
Yeah.
What this pandemic has done to, I mean, like every aspect of life, but you know, small businesses that went under or, you know, just weren't able to roll with it and
yeah,
you know, make it. And I mean, even the 24-hour restaurant by the hospital I work at still isn't back to 24 hours, which really sucks when you work midnights. Because it's like because I start at 6:30 and I think they close at either 9 or 11, and it's like, you know, I mean, when you start at 6:30 you're not ready for lunch till 12, 1. So
yeah,
it can be, I have to be sure to plan really well and take plenty of food. I usually stock the fridge at work with I don't know if you've had, I think it's Real Good. They're like frozen dinners.
oh yeah.
I get a lot of that and a couple other similar things.
Be Good?
I think it's Real Good.
Be Good.
Something like that. Oh. I don't know.
I can like
frozen
part
dinners.
Of a logo in my mind, but
right.
Man.
And I mean, I don't know if it's even available in your neck of the woods over there. Let's see. Is there anything else you really wanted to touch on?
Oh, you mentioned earlier wanted to talk about our like environmental minimal waste.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So for the viewing
really
public out there.
Really big news.
Okay, go for it.
We're about to take out our trash. We're about to take out the trash.
What? You generated trash?
For the 5th time ever. We're about to take out our trash can.
And that's in how many years?
5.
Wow.
And that includes construction. And like build out.
Including construction and build out?
That's that was insane. One trash can. Yeah. So yeah, the trash can actually has a counter written in permanent pen on the top for every time that it's dumped. So this is the 5th can that's being filled now. And it's not a big can. It's like a regular kitchen garbage can. We managed to go 2 years without taking out the trash.
Oh my God.
And it's just label backing and yeast packaging and hot packaging and an occasional piece of tape. And that's it. Everything else is composted, recycled, or we didn't generate the waste in the first place. So we do, it's not, for us, the goal isn't necessarily to keep it out of the landfill, like that's a benefit, but it's to not generate the material in the first place.
Okay.
Because that's really where the big environmental savings are. If you don't make the stuff that you're going to throw away, you've prevented it from ever existing, which is even better than just preventing it from going into the landfill.
Right.
Like honestly, stuff into a landfill isn't great, but it's not that terrible in terms of like modern emissions. Portland's way up on it, whatever. I mean, it's better to not do it, but to not generate the material in the first place is really where your environmental impact comes in. So our grain comes in reusable paper sacks that we have a few people who use. They want them. And then if they're not reusable, all you have to do is, if nobody wants them, all you have to do is cut one cotton thread, pull out the thread on the bottom, and now it's recyclable.
Right.
Like you have a ball of thread, and which is compostable because it's just cotton, and a piece of paper. So like there's the grain waste. Compost, recycling, none to landfill from every grain bag. Our plastic sugar bags are reused by a local farmer for selling as compost. So that actually gets a second life, after which they're still recycled as plastic film recycling. All of our grain is either composted at a farm or goes to municipal compost, which is just picked up. And all of our other waste, our hop waste, our grain waste is all composted, or not grain, but yeast, like the trub from the fermenter, the trub from the kettle, filter debris, it's all composted. So like compost goes out all the time, but actual garbage, we generate as little as possible. And we try to get our supplies from as close with as little shipping as possible.
Right.
So we get it from bulk suppliers, so there's not small loads. We pick it up from a local store that gets it on their regular delivery route, so our order doesn't add another, there's not another truck driving out to get stuff. And it's just like keep the impact down. We actually have a couple locations that we deliver beer to on foot. We have a couple of retailers that we deliver their beer orders on foot. Yeah, just hand truck and just walk it. And then in addition to those 2 locations, I have 2 or 3 more locations where I do all the merchandising on foot. And about half the time I commute to the brewery on foot. So we just try to keep like carbon footprint low, fuel footprint low, emissions low, materials low. And so it's just, and then some of it's like, how low can I get it? At a certain point, it becomes like kind of gamified, but it's just, everyone has an impact, and your impact's bigger than you think it is. We tend to only think of the impact of things once we have them. Like, oh, I've got this battery. How I dispose of it has an impact. Well, yeah, that's absolutely true.
But how did it get to you?
Exactly. How did it get to me? How did it get made? Like that's a huge amount of impact. So like reuse things. Every single bit in our construction that didn't touch the beer directly. So everything that touched the beer directly was new. Everything else was used. All of our piping was used. Our drain pipes, drain basins to go underneath the fermenters. All of our sewer pipe was reclaimed.
Wow.
All of the wood that we used for framing was reclaimed. And then buying all of that supports Habitat for Humanity because they run these rebuilding centers where they salvage deconstructed buildings. Instead of smashing the building, they come and they unmake them and then sell all of the parts very cheap. So we saved money. It's more work naturally, but it's my work, so that's fine. And then so that construction money, instead of going to cutting virgin materials, goes to reusing materials, which then pays for building homes for the poor.
That's awesome.
Sounds like a whole lot of winning. It's a whole lot. It's a win-win-win. You know, it's perfect.
Right.
So we try to do things like that. And it's like, we're not building anything anymore, but when we inevitably expand to our full-size brew pub, that's my hope and dream someday.
Right.
We will be doing a lot of that. Like, I have this whole idea of taking this even to a step higher and using, you know, entombed carbon, sequestered carbon in the structure of the building itself. Use thermal mass so you can use the cooling beer to warm up the building.
Okay.
So that you cool your beer by saving the warmth, so you don't have to heat the building.
Right.
You know, with fossil fuels or electricity. So just lots of like feedback ideas like that, because everything affects everything. And breweries use a lot of power. Like, we use natural gas, which probably wasn't environmentally the best call compared to electricity, but there was no way to upgrade our buildings' electrical capacity to be able to support like electrical heating. It just wasn't going to work with the space. So we made the call. It's like, okay, we'll use natural gas for now. And then when we build our big place, it'll be something else.
Right.
So that's our least environmentally friendly thing. But our water is all preheated with a 99% efficient tankless water heater. So it's a flow-through tankless water heater mounted on the wall that preheats that heats our mash water and preheats any other water that we need, so that the direct fire kettle, which is less efficient, doesn't have to heat it up as much.
Right. That makes sense.
And
I thought about getting one of those too.
Amazing. They're amazing. They're amazing.
It's like having an infinite volume strike water.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And you can dial a temperature on it.
Right.
You can just like, I want the water temperature to be this, and you can change it. Just like it, you know, it doesn't change instantly because it has the line, but it changes instantly inside the water heater. And you can change it. And it even reclaims the water, or reclaims the heat out of the steam in the exhaust. So it passes the exhaust from the burner over the cold incoming water and lets the exhaust condense on that, transferring heat into the cold incoming water. And so it actually doesn't exhaust steam. It just exhausts pure CO2 because the steam is condensed out of it to reclaim the heat.
That's awesome. I know some of the,
and it's great, and you can just buy them.
Right. And some of the like those systems, you have to have the exhaust has to have an electric fan to draw the exhaust out of it and to the outdoors. Because
mine exhausts horizontally because it doesn't have enough heat to do vertically. Yeah, and it exhausts inside of the air intake. So the air intake's a big pipe and the exhaust is a small pipe, and they fit through each other through the same hole, so that the exhaust warms up the incoming air.
It is amazing what they can figure out.
I didn't make this thing, but it fits perfectly with our ethos of just like, why waste energy, or why spend energy twice? If you need to heat this up and this is hot and you don't want it, switch them. I mean, we use counter flow chillers all the time. This is a counter flow chiller for air. I'm like, oh, I saw that and I was like, I want that, buying that. That's okay. We're gonna build a brewery around this. This is going right here.
It's so cool. And it probably saves you a lot of money too. Reduce your operating cost.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly does compared to having like a hot liquor tank, for instance. Now, there are advantages to a hot liquor tank, which is that your wastewater at the end, your cooling water, you know, if it's hot now, can be saved. And okay, you're saving that energy, but I just use mine for cleaning. Like by the time I'm done and have my hot water running, it's time to clean up, scrub out the mash tun, wash the floors, whatever. Now, a lot of it does get wasted and that heat goes down the drain, but a lot of it also gets used.
Right.
And sometimes I brew with it too. If I'm doing like a big batch of beer and then I want to do a beer window exclusive, I'll use the hot water that comes out of the counter flow chiller as my strike water.
Yeah.
So that works. Just pass the heat.
I know that water coming off your chiller can be extremely hot.
It certainly can be.
I didn't almost burn myself that way.
No,
never.
Uh, yeah, I've used it to melt ice off the sidewalks and wash the sidewalks, wash the outside of the building, just to lengthen the hose that comes off of it, and just like hot
Might
water
as well.
wash the
Yeah.
driveway. Just why not? Why not? Of course,
Well, and
and then if you use it outside, what's that?
I would say hot water can be very effective at cleaning without chemicals.
Yeah. Yeah. So we use reduced chemical load too. A lot of things like I think a lot of things are cleaned when they don't necessarily need to be in brewing. Like I don't worry about getting my mash tun to a PBW mirror finish.
Right.
I just wash it, and so what if it has this, cloudy, whatever, it's washed, water and a little touch of soap, it's fine.
Right.
That's going to be boiled. It's fine. We're all obsessed with the mirror finish, but it's like, look at these old breweries in Europe. There's no mirror clean. They
Right.
make some of the most amazing beer in the world. So I don't know. I think sometimes we just waste things.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, one I just thought about yesterday, actually, I was not for brewing, but just for the wasting things, is hot air drying on dishwashers. You have a dishwasher that heats up all the air to blow hot air through things,
Right.
and then it blows that hot air out into your apartment, where you have an air conditioner going to cool down your apartment.
Yeah.
So you've now used that energy, well, more than twice.
Yeah.
So what you could do is just open the dishwasher.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah. So things like that. I don't know. I'm pretty big on fighting climate change. In my spare time, I make biochar. You might have seen that on my personal Facebook page.
So bio which?
Biochar. So you take very dry, anything woody, wood, dry plants, sticks, the cotton thread from the brewery, and put it in a closed container that has a few vent holes, and heat it, generally by setting it in a fire, or you could do it with a solar, which is my plan someday. And then that starts to off gas, and first it's steam, and then it's flammable gases, and so you can just light it, and that makes flames that enwrap it and bake it harder, but no oxygen can get in. And so when it's done and you let it, no more flame comes out, and you let it cool down, you open that, it's full of pure carbon. It's just a box of carbon. And that carbon can no longer rot. It's fixed. It's just hard carbon. And you can crush it and mix it with the soil. And it's really, really good for the soil. It makes really rich black soil. It offers home for water and air and nutrients and bacterial surfaces, and it resists compaction. Like, this is what makes good dark soil. This is the dark part of the good dark soils. And normally it builds up over hundreds and hundreds of years of natural fires, like prairie fires across the Great Plains is what made those layers of darkness in the soil. That's tiny bits of grass char. Or terra preta in the Amazon is intentionally made biochar by the people who live there. But that's, naturally fallen wood that was going to rot in the next couple of years and return to CO2 in the atmosphere is now fixed in the ground for 500 years.
Wow.
So it's actually taking atmospheric carbon, locking it, and putting it in the ground. Plus, I get to play with big fire. It's fun. It's just fun.
Yeah. Fire.
This thing is it's kind of like a dragon to look at. You should look at my Facebook page. I call it The Thing. And it's just a circle of bricks with a metal bucket in the middle, and wood goes around it. Yeah. And wood goes around it, and wood goes on top of it, and you light a fire around a bucket. And then by the time it's done, it's just a bucket with curtains of flame. And it's just like the flame looks like it's appearing from nowhere because it's coming out of tiny holes in the bucket. And it just sits there roaring and making flame. And then you're done and you have biochar. So I've been working with a local farmer who takes a lot of my brewery waste, and he takes that and mixes it with his active compost, and it improves the quality of his compost and helps it resist compaction.
Right. And then that goes into his crops, basically. And
yeah, it goes into his crops, and he sells the compost.
Right.
So it's like, this is, you know, all part of little bits of my someday forever plan of coming together and making the world's most ecologically friendly brew pub. Would be my ultimate goal.
Are you gonna go solar?
Partially, probably
Okay.
not solar fired, like not direct solar fired,
Mm-hmm.
but solar hot water, solar panels, cover a parking lot with solar panels, because why not use the space? Why does nobody do that? I know it's a little
Right.
bit done in California, but like, you have all these parking lots where everybody's upset that they get hot and they all fight over the tiny bits of shade. And then you put solar panels somewhere else. Why not shield the cars? I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't understand that one.
And then if it's
Probably they don't want
raining, you
people to
don't
drive
get
into the
wet.
posts. Yeah, right? Like, I don't know. It's probably because people are dumb and would drive into the posts.
There is that for sure.
Yeah. If 2020 has taught me anything, it's you have to allow for that people are dumb.
Definitely.
But we can stay away from that topic.
Right. That'll be a
So
different
back to
show.
beer.
Back to beer.
Back to beer. Yeah. So very, very low waste, very, very environmentally friendly. I've last week I went through and unsubscribed from as much junk mail at the brewery as we possibly could, because we figured out it's our fourth largest source of trash is unrecyclable junk mail.
Oh god, junk mail's horrible.
So fortunately, most of it's just paper now. But yeah, call a lot
But
of
it's
places.
still
It's
a
like,
whole bunch
we don't
of,
want your,
it's being shipped to you, it's being produced, it's
yeah,
being printed,
yeah. So they're cutting down trees, making ink,
right.
transporting the paper, printing it, shipping it to me so I can throw it in the recycling unopened. Why?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna read it. It's like so many. I mean, on that note too, it's like so many offers from other businesses who don't bother to research like what we are. Places like, oh, we'd love to help you rent out your event space. Contract with us. We only charge $100 a month to help organize your event space. We're a 600 square foot brewery, and every inch of our spot is full. We do not have event space.
An event space at that point,
Yeah,
right?
no. Like, there's room for me most of the time.
Not always.
Not right now. I filled the spot I need to stand with the labeled bottles to bottle tomorrow. Like, have to rearrange things. So it's like I definitely like wall myself off and end up like having to like, okay, well, I guess I can't leave until I bottle these 15 cases because they're in the way.
That's how I feel sometimes.
Yeah, it's probably good. It's sort of like a how to enforce a deadline on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just wall yourself off with your work. Can't leave till it's done.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, do you have any more questions about the brewery? I love being able to talk about it.
Not that I can think of offhand.
Weirdest beer I've ever made?
Yes, weirdest beer you've ever made.
Weirdest beer I've ever made was requested from Mutantis Brewing. They said, make us the weirdest thing you're willing to sell. So I did. And it was a wild fermented mushroom ale using a yeast. Yeah, it's really good, which I was very relieved by.
Right.
So the yeast was cultured off of a hop cone. So just little flask and cultured just a hop cone, and it made a lovely yeast, and then did a mushroom ale with mushrooms added at 3 steps: beginning of the boil, end of the boil, and then frozen mushroom into the fermenter. And the mushroom flavor came across as this like mild, earthy hint of meatiness.
Okay.
And it was good. Jason was very worried. I don't blame him for being very worried at all. And I told him what I was making, and his was like, okay. Yeah, it worked out. That's probably the weirdest thing. The second weirdest thing I get to blame on George Washington, which is that molasses small beer recipe that he wrote, and it's terrible. But yeah, That's not my fault. I followed the recipe. That's all
Right?
on him. Man, there's
Named
no
George Washington.
punctuation in that recipe at all.
Oh
The
no.
whole recipe is written out in his own handwriting, and it's like, and it just ends with "served the day the week it was brewed." That seems ambiguous
S-
and also really fast,
Served the day the week it was brewed. Okay.
which I think means exactly a week later. I think is
Right.
what that means. Like the same day the next week.
Right.
But there's a lot of things in there. It's like put 2 jugs molasses. Like, okay, how much is a jug? And it turns out this is a recipe to make like 40 gallons. I'm like, oh.
How
But
strong is this
I
supposed
didn't,
to be?
it's only 3%.
It's not,
Oh.
I mean, they've like some 3%ers.
Yeah, but he made it so that it would have, his idea was that it would have a rum flavor and get
Okay.
his troops to drink a 3% beer instead of 50% rum. So they'd stop
Right.
being so stumbling drunk in camp all the time. That was the motivation. I had some customers really like it. I have had people request it. I had people come back for it. I can't stand it. I hate it. it's just bad. It's just, no.
Not an experiment you're going to repeat.
I mean, I guess I already did. I made it twice at people's
Okay.
requests, and I warned people about it. I'm like, this is the 4th of July gimmick because I made it so it'd be available on the 4th of July for George Washington's appropriate. And I told people, I'm like, this is a gimmick beer. If you don't like it, you have to take it up with George Washington. It's not my fault. And people bought it, like with that caveat. I'm like,
There you
I hate it.
go.
And they're like, I'll take 2. Like, okay.
All right. We'll take the sales.
Yeah. Well, I even had people come back and be like, you were right. It was terrible. Which was, okay.
And I'll take 2 more.
You joke, but customers, you never know.
Right.
Yeah.
Any like next big plans,
We've got
ideas?
well, I mean, in the immediate run, we've got that Spruce beer coming out and a holiday 12 pack. So 12 different beers. Some of them you've
Okay.
seen before. So the half you've seen before and half are new. So that's coming out. After that, to be honest, I really haven't planned past that. It's a little bit difficult to have 6 new beers available all at the same time.
Right.
So I've been pretty much focused on that, which just wrapped up. Last week, I hand bottled 770 bottles in like 4.5 days
Wow.
by hand. So that took a little. That's what happens when you like try to stagger your beers. So you do your big beers first, and then the dark beers, and then the shorter, quicker beers, and then big beers take too long, and they all end up done within the same like 2 days. Like despite my best efforts.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, what I should have done was brewed them all at the same time, and they would have been done at different times. But
There you go.
screw that up.
But brewing them
Yeah,
all at the
next
same
year.
time is hard too.
Yeah, there is that. Yeah, we can. If I really push it, I can make 5 small batch beers in one day
Okay.
because I use part of the full size equipment, and so just order it, and then just stack grain in the mash tun. If you have any, different grains or darker grains or anything like that, that just goes last with the regular millet on the bottom. So you don't have to empty that. It does make it hard to, figure out how much water to put in the mash tun because how much grain is constantly changing. But then just like equipment seems hot, and you can use the hot cooling water off one beer to mash in the next beer. So it just cycles them. It gets pretty hectic though. I definitely have to lay out grids for like which ingredients are for which beers. So it works though. Done it.
Right.
Makes a very, very busy day, but it can be done. So I think I don't think I'd want to try for 6 in a day.
That would just be too much.
Five is possible if one of them is like an extract, like a molasses small beer, or brew it with a really short boil time. It's like boil for 10 minutes. Like, okay, I want to do that one.
Right.
Yeah. I've done 4 a few times. That's okay.
Yeah, that's what I
busy, but
liked
it's
with the
okay.
goose recipe is 15-minute boil. It's like, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. So it's like our goza recipe is the most like schedule destroying because it's a kettle sour. So like do the mash, bring it up to 180, cool it to 100, pitch and let it sit at least 2 days in the
Yeah.
middle of the brew house. So it's like, well, now you can't do anything. Like
Yeah.
you can go bottle. And they're like, the brew house is closed. Like always got to plan when that one's gonna happen.
Right. Yeah, the goose I did was with the Philly sour yeast. So it's,
In
my
the fermenter.
typical, just throw it in the fermenter and just let it do its thing, and comes out pretty darn good.
That sounds like a better plan.
It's definitely has its advantages. You are kind of,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a little bit of you get what you get.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's not like, I know with kettle souring, you can, like check your pH, be like, okay, now it's ready to go to
Yeah.
boil. So you can probably better control your sourness.
Yeah, I just drink it instead of like you can check the pH, which I have
Right.
done for sure, and I have a little pH meter. It's like try it. I finally realized it's like, what's actually more important? Like drink the pH
Right.
sample. Needs a little more, and plus it's probiotics. It's lactobacillus.
Good for your stomach, right? Or your
Oh yeah, it's
digestion.
basically kombucha at that point, isn't it? Am I making kombucha? Almost.
I don't know. I've thought about doing a beer with and just throwing a SCOBY on there to see what would happen.
Well,
But
I
I
think you
haven't
just get
even
hard
done.
kombucha.
Right, but kombucha it's like tea
Yeah,
that's
no
been
hops.
fermented. Yeah, so there's no hops or grains involved.
Yeah, you
So if
should
you threw
try
it
it.
into
I'm
water,
curious.
yeah, one of these days.
So many things to try. So
Right,
many
so
things to
many
try.
things in so little
Yeah.
time.
Well, I guess I would say what's actually new is that we're really pushing doing custom beers.
Okay.
So with our new label printer, we can do custom labels for people to
Mhm.
a limited extent. We're not graphic artists. You get your words on a background. No fanciness here yet. Not yet. But we've done a few. We did one for the Chief Petty Officers Association of Portland for the U.S. Navy. So that was really cool. They got a beer that had so much coffee in it, it made me start crying when I was bottling it. It was just like the coffee.
Wow.
That was at their specific instruction. They said 4 times as much coffee as I normally put in a beer. Okay. Yes, Master Chief. And they sent me a message like, we love it. Okay, great. I'm not going to drink that.
Good.
But yeah, I did those customs for stores. So yeah, customs to go on people's kegerators. That's always fun. Yeah. Did some custom gruits, batches of our Old Man Sage.
Which I love.
Yeah,
I love that beer.
Yeah, it's fun.
Especially since my daughter's name is Sage, so.
Oh, perfect. Yeah,
Right.
Every batch of it is different. Even when I brewed 2 batches, like one immediately after another, same day, same, bag of ingredients, just cut in half, they were still different. Not very different, but you could, if you were doing a blind tasting, you'd be like, no, these aren't the same. Be able to, do 3 bottles and tell which 2 came from which batch. And so if you brew it months apart, it's even more different. It's so just touchy, so gentle, I think is the right way to put it. Like it's processed. I've never had 2 batches where I couldn't tell them apart.
That's interesting. I'll have to try your most recent batch.
It just sold out, unfortunately.
Separate batches, so I can,
Yeah,
I can try that, and experience it.
We'll probably brew it again in like the late spring. That'll probably come back.
Okay. All right. Well, this has been Gluten Free Beer Brian with Dan from Moonshrimp Brewing. See ya.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.